Hi, this is Graphically Alex coming at you with all things fat related. If that's something that interests you, please subscribe. I'd love to have you. Today we're going to be talking about food noise. We're going to talk about this question, how to decenter food noise from your life. I want to give a different perspective on food noise, and I want to talk about what worked for me, and I want to talk about where I think it comes from. And we're going to use this post to talk about it. So this person says, I use food, especially dessert, as a way to deal with life, but also celebrate it. I used to have the toxic ritualistic, so I think some of this is an overcorrection of restricting myself for so long. But now I have a problem with treating myself too much. Finish a project, go out to dinner, long day, DoorDash, feeling down, eat a cookie, or in my case, all of them. Feeling high on life, let's celebrate with a big meal. Food is a huge part of my work week, my weekends, and my travel. Cooking and baking are also my hobbies. On a recent trip to NYC, I had a spreadsheet of restaurants to try, and I ran around trying all of them. My friend jokingly told me, girl, all you want to do on vacation is eat. And while it was a joke, it definitely made me pause and reflect. Maybe other people do not think about food this much. As I've started my weight loss journey, it's been hard to turn this food noise off and decenter it from my life. I also don't want to go back on the path of restriction. What are some non-food related rewards and pick-me-ups that you give yourself? And if you used food as a reward before, how did you train yourself to use something else? How do you lessen food noise? So let's talk about it. I'm going to give my answer. So I will say, I don't know if this person is completely out of the toxic ritualistic. There might be a shift. Sometimes people experience one and then they go to another. I think that this person's more mild in case. I think that this is what it could look like. I mean, if every single thing that you want to do centers around food and eating, then that is an obsession. It's absolutely obsessive. And that does have to be reflected upon, and it has to be addressed and shifted, because you might still be in the toxic ritualistic, but it might be to a lesser extent, or maybe subclinical, but this is still giving a bit of that. So basically, I just wanted to add that because I'm not sure if this person is completely out, especially because there is such a fear of reduction that I don't think is healthy. I think it's a little bit touchy, which I can understand if somebody was overly reductive, but you have to remember that it's not you're in control the whole time. This is it's bullshit, basically. So that's just to this person specifically that I'm talking about. In terms of food noise, I think food noise, I've realized it comes from this Lana era concept. That's why I'm wearing the crown, of a lust for life, right? I think that a lot of times we think about food as something that people go to when they're feeling miserable, or something that they're using to cope, or these types of things. These types of words are used all the time when it comes to eating. In my opinion, it's a little bit TR coded, just a touch. When people talk about comfort eating or comfort food, that kind of stuff, it's it's just a touch. It's I don't really love it. I don't think the roots of that concept are that great. What I do think of it as is, a lot of times people with food noise, they want experience. They want fun. They want good things in life. And so when people are coming at food and it's not as a way to cope, or it's not as a way to find comfort, then they call it food noise. So it's basically when they don't feel bad or anything, but they still want to eat all the time. And I've realized that it comes from a sense of entitlement, which I think entitlement, it can be seen as really negative, and it can be really negative, especially if you're really lazy on top of it. But if you're a hardworking person and you want good things in life, I think that you are entitled to that. I think that we have to think about that a little differently. I think, too, a person is entitled to their own life path, their own goals, their own, again, that lust for life. And I think that sometimes that can be mistranslated to a lust for food, especially if you're a particularly emotional person, or again, you tend to get caught up in the moment, right? Like you're not super big on being strict all the time, these types of things. I think that that kind of person is really the one who's going to be struck with food noise the most. And it's because you have to think of it as kind of like the Little Mermaid, you know? It's like, I want more. I want to see, I want to be where the people are, you know? It's like you have that feeling inside of you. You have a curiosity. You have a desire to experience something different or new or exciting, or to go somewhere you've never been or do something you've never done. And I think that that is oftentimes, it can be demonized, honestly. I think curiosity is demonized in today's culture. I don't know how else to say it. It's if you ask a question and it's an inappropriate question, people shut you down, and you know, people are very crotchety these days. I don't know how else to say it, you know. And I think a person that has that natural curiosity, that has that kind of Little Mermaid energy, they're going to have a hard time in today's society. And I think that that could translate into food noise, because food isn't going to bitch at you if you have a question. Food isn't going to judge you for wanting to try it, right? And it's very like light. This is very light TR, but it still matters and it affects a lot of people, even if it's like, again, subclinical, or it's not really, you're not fully in the TR or whatever. It still has some TR roots to it, even if it's like a baby version of it or something that's not that bad. But it can still affect your goals and it can affect your health. I mean, people can overindulge easily to class 1 obesity, and once you're there, it's like, oh gosh, it's actually really affecting your health, you know? So when I talk about it being kind of toxically ritualistic, it's kind of like it has roots in it. That's where it can start for somebody, is like, I want to eat this to find comfort, or I want to eat this because I'm feeling curious or entitled or adventurous, right? And I think that for those of us that have that natural childlike feeling of curiosity about the world and that exuberance, we often will suppress it in a time like this, when people are struggling financially, when people are being judged all the time. We will often stamp out that light or stamp out that exuberance in an attempt to appease others. And that can then become food noise, because again, the food isn't going to judge, and the food is not going to bitch at you if you have a question, you know? And I think that that is a common feeling or a common reason why people have food noise. It's because they want a sense of adventure. And you can be an introvert. You can be an introverted version too. You don't have to be like a Little Mermaid. You can also be like, you know, Belle from The Beauty and the Beast. I don't know why Disney is coming to mind. I think it's because it's that childlike vibe. You know, you can be like an introverted person that's reading books all the time, and just, you find the mundanity of life so boring. And so you think about being in like a different realm or something, and it's like you could have that vibe. And again, this is not just females, it's also males too. There's a lot of guys like that too, that are adventurous, or they want to go out and do something, or again, they're imaginative, or they're world building, or these kinds of things. And it's like, you need to find outlets for that. There's nothing wrong with that. I think one of the things that helped me, I barely, honestly, for most of my downsizing journey, I have not felt any drive for food noise. It was just after Thanksgiving, so I'm so convinced it's purely psychological. But I think that what helped me deal with it, honestly, has been being with my cousin and her baby. Her baby is a year old, like a year and a half, 18 months, you know, that vibe, around there. And she's busy. She's walking around and she's looking at things. And you know what she's not doing? She's not thinking about food. She's typically not. And she has that child exuberance, that natural light of childhood. And I think that a lot of us, we still have that as adults, but we suppress it. And I think there's something really beautiful about, not keeping the tantrums and the crying of a toddler, but keeping that exploration and that curiosity and light that a child has, and going for it. And even if you want to be cringy or you want to be cheesy or something, it's like there's something that's beautiful about that, even though it isn't very acceptable in today's time and place and culture. But I'm here to advocate for you to do that anyways. If you go to somewhere and you want to go on a trip, and to you, it's like the most amazing thing in your life. Like, I remember I dreamed before I went on my trip to Australia. I dreamed of going to Australia for a long time before I went. And when I finally went to Sydney and I stared at the Opera House, I wanted to cry. I could not believe it. Like, it was such this beautiful, like, especially for me as such an introvert, it was so hard for me to do. And it was this beautiful moment of exuberance, of joy, of the fact that I had a goal, I had a dream, and it had come true. I couldn't believe it. It was like I had seen this thing in magazines and books my whole life, and it was right in front of me. I had accomplished it. And I started to cry over it. I wanted to cry over it. And the friend I went, she was a narcissistic bitch. And she was like a huge bitch about me feeling that way. It was like no big deal to her. She was so nonchalant. She's so this, she's so that. No. She's too cool for that. And it's like, fuck you. And I wish, like, when I was really young when I did that, and I fought my battles and stuff. I was not friends with that person after that trip, but it was not just about that. It was about a lot of things, but it was about the overall lack of, like, that feeling of judgment. And that did fuel a cycle, if I'm going to be real about it. And I think that we have to find that appropriate balance of shutting down certain voices of criticism while also taking good voices of criticism too. It's difficult, but that's adulthood. That's growing up, and that's being responsible and prudent. And I think that exuberance and that childlike energy, it thrives best within reasonable discipline. And so if you find the balance, I would lean into that, because I found, like, having structure in my life, it has allowed me to find that part of myself again today. And if I were to do something like that again, it's like, allow yourself to romanticize the experience. Allow yourself to dream. Allow yourself to feel the joy of everything that you're experiencing, and don't hold back for the sake of others. And I think that if people can do that, they're going to struggle with food noise a lot less. Find a way to be creative. It has to do with you not channeling your creativity. So you think about food because you're thinking about all the ways that you could create the food. That's the problem. This is how suppression can be a part of a toxic ritualistic cycle, by the way. If you suppress joy, that can be part of it. So I just wanted to make this video quick today. I'm a little tired. I've been working a lot, but I can finally rest pretty soon. So I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will talk to you guys later. I'll see you soon. Bye.